Hello everybody, welcome to another review. Today I'm going to be reviewing the brand new album by Panchiko, a indie rock, art rock, NEO-PSYCHEDELIA and other sorts band from the UK. So Panchiko have had a pretty interesting decade. So the band literally released death metal and EP in 2000, which is ironic because despite being called death metal, it sounds pretty much the opposite. It's a very calm indie art rock blend, as I mentioned, with this kind of nice soothing sound for it. So it's definitely quite different, and since the band has picked up the attention recently in the last few years, they have decided to make a comeback in 2020, and then we had our first album, Failed at Maths, which is pretty nice to see the fact that the band is pretty much just releasing stuff and kind of entered the mainstream, because otherwise this band would have just been a project put to rest after a few EPs. So it's nice to see more material coming from them. Ginkgo is the second record, and honestly, as someone who's never really listened to much Panchiko, this is me going into the band's first album blind. I've never listened to their debut or this, so this is my first Panchiko album, and from first listen it honestly sounds pretty good. I think there's a lot of variety that makes this one quite interesting. Sure, some songs sort of blend in my head a little bit with the 13 track run being kind of odd, but there is still a lot of tracks that stand out to me as, hey, I pretty much like that and I want to listen to it again. One of the biggest standouts is because it has a rapper named Billy Woods in Shandy in the Graveyard. This was one of the singles, and I think it's definitely got a strong presence. The rap doesn't feel like it doesn't belong there. They tie into it nicely. I think the instrumentation works great to elevate that, and there's even some moments on this record where the guitar's a little bit more prominent rather than just being this sort of calm aesthetic that almost delves into subgenres like shoegaze, which I think I like about tracks like Chapel of Soul, which was, I believe, released as either a single or just as the most prominent non-album single they wanted to focus on. Don't blame them, to be honest, because this track is easily my favourite. I think the way the guitars kick into the chorus, I just like the overall aesthetic. It brings out a bit more of this rock sound that the band just wants to kind of be lenient and just relax on, and I think Chapel of Soul creates a lot of diversity there. It's a pretty fun sounding song, and it sounds great just from that. Honeycomb was one of the singles that I remember being released, never listened to it, so this was, again, going to the album blind, but I love this track, and I think as a single, makes sense when they released it. This is probably one of the more standout tracks to me, similar to Ginkgo as well. These singles generally are some of the strongest stuff, other than maybe Shandy in the Graveyard, which is still a great song. I even find tracks like Max Omelette to be a stronger single in that regard. The overall aesthetic of this record is it's nothing that absolutely overstimulates your brain. It's just something you can kind of more or less put on. You can even have it in the background, you can just kind of sit there, chill with it. It's not really a time waster, and with 39 minutes of 13 tracks, it does go by quite quick, so even if you're not the biggest fan, I don't think you're wasting too much time on it. It's definitely still got a bit of variety. Vinegar's a nice song. I think it is kind of weird that you go from Chapel of Soul to Vinegar. I think Vinegar keeps a similar aesthetic before the rest of the songs kind of go into this softer territory, but I don't really care. They both sound great. There is one track that stood out to me, Formula. I don't know if it's just because of the audio quality, but there is numerous moments where it does sound like the song's fumbling up, and I'm pretty sure that's intentional. But if it's not, it's either my part or it's just a little bit weird wonkiness of the record. But I think some of these elements just kind of create this little bit of uncertainty to the album, and that's kind of part of the charm I think Ginkgo wants to go for. So if that's just, intentional, then I think it's interesting to note that one. But there's honestly a lot of tracks, and there's not really anything I think slumps on it. It's certainly not the album of the year worthy record, but I think for Panchiko, they're not really releasing weak material. This holds up to a bunch of the songs from death metal, in my opinion. Chapel Soul, probably my favourite song from the band in general. I was just impressed by that. But there's a lot of variety this album still has, even though some of the songs, like I said, do feel like they just kind of muddle into a similar sound, but there's still enough, and I think you can put any song and I don't think I'd be disappointed. It's a fun album. I don't know if it's better than Failed in Maths, but I can certainly say it's still a good album, and Panchiko still got it, so nice to see this band make a comeback this decade. But yeah, this is a good album. I'm going to give it a 3.5 out of 5, relatively good, a nice soft indie album that just doesn't really need to feel like it needs to be something else. It just has Panchiko written all over it, and I love the aesthetic of it. It's nice, it's dreamy, it's fun. That's all it needs to be. So I hope you all enjoy. Thank you so much for watching, and see you in the next video.